putting pressure on Robert's wounds, trying to stop the bleeding, which it doesn't seem to was even bleeding at all. But no, the blood on the towel seemed to have been from somebody wiping the knife. The knife itself had blood the entirety of the way up the blade. Weirdly enough, the wounds on Robert were like 4.5 inches deep. The blood on the knife was up to 5 inches deep. So it seemed like the knife was like too long to have been the ones that actually stabbed Robert. Also on that knife found later were fibers from the towel. So it seemed like that towel had been used to wipe the knife clean. But what was even weirder, and this is where things really stopped making sense, is that, so Robert was wearing a t-shirt, had stab wounds that matched the stab wounds in his body. So you could assume he was wearing that t-shirt when he was stabbed, but there was a surprisingly small amount of blood on this t-shirt. There was also no t-shirt fibers found on the knife. It almost seemed like that knife wasn't the murder weapon, it was just made to look like the murder weapon. So before I get deeper into the men who were in that house, their backgrounds and what they say happened, and their police interviews, let me get into what actually happened to Robert 1, because it is traumatic. So there was 3 stab wounds to his chest. The medical examiner would say they were perfect, as in Robert wasn't fighting the stabber. There wasn't tearing or anything, and each came from the exact same angle, but they all cut serious blood vessels, arteries, and organs. As in, he would have been pumping blood, so the scene was very, very strange. None would have killed him immediately, however, it's believed Robert would have been alive for a considerable amount of time after he had been stabbed. They knew he would have been alive after he had stabbed because blood was found deep in his intestines, as in his heart was still pumping. You know, the stab wound, internal bleeding, his heart was still pumping and his digestive system was still working long enough that the blood could get that far, you know, into his system. But he had no defensive wounds or marks or anything on him like that. And he had, weirdly enough, he had no blood on his hands. It was as if he had been paralyzed before being stabbed. Also found were burst blood vessels in his eyes, as if he had been strangled, but there was no ligature marks at all on his body. So it was maybe somebody held a pillow over his head, something like that. Robert also had multiple needle puncture marks on his body, in his neck, in his chest, on his feet, as if somebody had been injecting him, maybe with something. Now, the medical examiner, when they were making all these findings, they asked, you know, the paramedics. Paramedics said it didn't do it. The doctors at the hospital where Robert would be pronounced dead, they didn't do it. His wife, Catherine Yu, she was asked, has Robert undergone any kind of medical procedures lately? She would say no. No, and I mean, needle marks don't last that long, so they must have happened, like, that night, we can presume. He was screened for various drugs. Nothing was in his system at all. They screened for GHB, which would be something we commonly see that knocks people out, date rape drug. No, wasn't found in his system. Benzos, opiates, meth, nothing. Now, of course, he may have been drugged, but it was either something they didn't test for, or it could have been something that just broke down, so that by the time they were testing for it, it didn't show up. Then they did a sex kit on him. And I'm trying to choose my words very, very carefully here, because this is kind of like sensitive. They checked his bits, his outside bits, and his, you know, inside bits. And they found DNA inside his butt. Man only DNA, if you know what I'm saying. So they were like, okay, this is clearly he's been like sexually assaulted and murdered. But the DNA they found inside him was his own DNA. What the fuck? It was as if he had sexually assaulted himself. Robert had come to this house, been incapacitated somehow, and then been tortured to death. The wounds on him would have been extremely painful. No two ways about it. I mean, just to even think about what he would have been going through in his final moments. Best not, actually. Now, spit take on that, don't. It was scary. It was almost like ritualistic, what had been done to his body. But where had this happened? He had bled a lot, but there was almost no blood in the room where he had been. Only a couple of spots, so that's not that. And then the guys who were there were frankly, the guys were acting scary. Now I'm going to get into each of them, and I'm not going to shit talk any of them. Okay, I take that back. I might shit talk them a little bit. But each of their stories sort of matched. And they also were all pretty interesting fellas. First up was Joseph Price. When the police began speaking with him, Joseph Price was kind of eager to speak for all 3 of them. Now I'm going to go through each man's background and police interview, but it's important to note that Joseph Price was an attorney, so it would make sense he would kind of be the one who would want to speak for all of them. He would do the talking and maintain, just as Victor had done on that 911 call, that an intruder Masked man must have come in and done this to Robert. So then each of them were separated and taken to the police station that night. Now, they weren't, detained or anything. They were all free to leave during these police interviews, but they just decided to stick around and yap away. So Joseph Price was Robert's old friend from college. He was 35 years old at the time, an attorney with Arent Fox, a law firm in DC. He made partner in 2006, the year all of this occurred. Look at you. He specialized in trademark and copyright law and had represented some major clients. He was also very active in gay rights and that sort of thing, advocacy.
That door, fingerprinting that knife, I mean, somebody jumped our fence and went through that door. You said tell you what I know. We have an alarm system. The alarm was not on, but it has a function where the doors chime if you open the doors, whether the alarm or not. After Robert was there, we had drinks around the, sink. Went upstairs, we showed Robert where the shower was, where the bathroom was, right down the hall. Here's your bed. We already made out the pull-out bed for him. We said goodnight. He said he was going to take a shower right then. It was all sticky. I went upstairs, saw the last 5 minutes of the show, and then started watching the first 10 minutes of some other thing on Spike TV. And I knew Victor was getting annoyed that I wasn't turning off the TV, so I turned it off and we went to sleep.
His statement was that they were falling asleep, they heard the door chime, then they heard some grunts, they went down, they found Robert.
So Victor and I both jump out of bed, we run downstairs. There's, the stairs end at the door. I see the doors open, I see Robert is laying there. The bed cover is pulled back. He's laying there. There is blood on him. His hand was out, one arm was out like this and one arm was like this, I think, or somewhere across his body. And there was a knife. I believe it was on him, on his stomach or something like that.
He said he found that knife on Robert's chest, picked it up, accidentally getting my own fingerprints on it, then left it on the nightstand, though he would later change that to he pulled the knife out of Robert's body and then left it on the nightstand, which, you'd think you'd remember the difference between just picking it up or...
I picked up the knife, I moved it, I lifted up his shirt, and I could clearly see there was one puncture wound right on his belly. I lifted up his shirt a little more, there was a lot of blood on his chest.
Then he raised Robert's shirt to look at his wounds, and he saw Dylan come out from his bedroom at the end of the hall. So it's weird, though, that Joe and Victor, who were upstairs, would come down and find Robert, when Dylan, who was much closer, didn't. Came out last. Apparently heard nothing. Joseph said he got a towel to put pressure on Robert's wounds, which, as I already mentioned, doesn't match the blood on the towel. He would say the front door had been locked, but that maybe the back door had been left unlocked, so this could be how this mystery intruder got in.
Is he homosexual?
No, not gay. Never has been. Think about it, No drugs, no booze, nothing. Robert was the, best, absolutely straight A, no nonsense guy I ever met.
Joe, however, would say there was not a chance in hell Dylan would hurt anyone, nor Victor.
Like I said, Victor and Dylan are better than anyone. There's no chance on the face of this earth that either one of them could, punch someone, never mind, kill someone. It's ridiculous. And you guys are focusing on us.
No,
This did not happen. We focus on facts. I know. You guys have to look at facts.
All we can look at is what we know, what we see.
So long as someone's dusting the back door and all that kind of stuff, I know you guys will find evidence. There was somebody else on the loose. I heard the child.
Yeah. You heard the child. Was that the person leaving?
No, I believe it was the person coming in, because then I hear the UNT later.
You're not sure.
I know I didn't fall back to sleep.
You heard the sound.
Somebody comes in.
Did you hear a scream or waiting for time to come out?
Yeah.
You hear those?
I heard the chime, and it was quiet. I don't know how long. Maybe it was a minute, 2, 3, 4. You know, I just woke up. I'm thinking, oh, Sarah came home, and I roll back over.
Your floors, the stairs, they're hardwood, right? So you would think that if somebody was going down the stairs, even if somebody was running down the stairs, you better hit them, right?
During the interview, he seemed very concerned with Dylan, asking to see him multiple times and asking if he had been let out yet, seemingly less concerned with his partner, Victor.
This is one of my oldest friends. What on earth would possess me to do such a thing? Never mind, could I do it? It's crazy.
The whole thing's crazy.
Yeah.
The guy ain't supposed to be staying over at your house tonight. That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense.
But just ask his wife if he was planning to. I can show you the email right here about it. I got my BlackBerry. This is from my work account.
Well, maybe he's thinking about doing a little experiment. I don't know.
If that were true, I would tell you guys.
Why would you?
Because
Why?
Because why not tell you? I mean, my God, I want you to find who did this.
So what I'm asking you is, where did this guy go?
I believe he ran out of the house.
Between the grunting and you running down the stairs, which happened?
Yeah. Yes. I agree with you. Look, it's a crazy. I mean, why wasn't the back door wide open? Why wasn't the gate wide open? Why didn't he go out the front door?
Yeah, but you would think that you were running to this guy. You would see this guy running.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you said seconds.
Yeah. I mean, it really was.
That minute, seconds.
Yeah. I think that's
you
right.
didn't hear anybody running down the stairs or anything. So what makes you think it's a burden? You didn't hear anybody.
You got no reason to respond. Couldn't be Dylan.
I know it's you guys don't know it's from Adam, so who knows? We could all be crazy sometimes, but all I can tell you is it wasn't one of them. It wasn't me. We had no reason on earth to do this. I mean, but I know Robert's whole family. I mean,
I got 3 homosexuals in the house, and I got 1 straight guy. What's he doing over there? What is he doing over there? I think we're all drinking wine. You know what's going to happen tonight? You're coming to Jesus tonight. That's what's going on.
that's fascinating and insulting. And
Here we go. That's why you must be safe.
But you know what? That's not what happened.
You
Robert's
know?
happily married. I do know that.
Then why is she? But Dylan's not happily married, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you're upstairs with Victor.
Yeah.
He's downstairs with Robert. He wasn't real,
He
man.
wasn't down there with Robert.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
You don't know what you're talking.
I do know.
No, you don't, but you're upstairs. You can't see.
I
You
can't.
wanna, but you don't know.
That's just not even possible. We didn't do it. I found Robert laying on my couch. It is as bizarre to me as if I found a hippo in my house. It is absolutely unbelievable. And nobody did.
Victor was Joseph's long-term partner by almost a decade. By the time we get to our story here, he worked in marketing. He was like a marketing manager, consultant, something. Milk, if you can believe that was his game. The Got Milk campaign. That was him. So it's fair to say Victor Zaworski, fairly successful guy.
So what you're basically telling me, and we went over this earlier, is somebody came in your house. What you believe somebody came in your house,
Yes.
through your back door. Well, first of all, over your fence, over your high fence. How high is that? 8 feet? Higher?
Probably 9 foot.
Okay, 9 foot wood fence in the back. In through your back door, took a knife out of your butcher's block off the counter in your kitchen, went up to the 2nd floor and stabbed Robert and left the knife there, then left without taking anything, without anybody seeing anyone.
That's what I think happened. I think it was probably they were coming in to rob us, and
Why didn't they take anything then if they were coming in to rob you? Why didn't they go to that first bedroom?
I don't know.
Let me ask you this. Did Dylan kill Robert?
No.
How do you know that?
I know Dylan. He's not a violent person. He's one of the nicest, sweetest people I've ever met.
Did you kill him? Yeah. You didn't kill him?
No, I did not kill him.
No reason to?
No reason to kill him.
What about Paul?
Jeff,
I'm sorry, what about Joseph?
absolutely not. He was with me.
Yeah, that's quite a mystery we got working here. This is a good one. I mean, 4 guys in the house, 1 guy ends up dead, the other 3, I'm saying I didn't do it, and the other persons didn't do it. But then we have no evidence of anything, forced entry, or anything like that.
His statement to the police was sort of interesting, in that Victor Zaworski wasn't even supposed to be in the house that night. He had actually been on a business trip, but had come home early from that business trip, and that's why he was there. He didn't even meet Robert that night. He was in bed, probably exhausted from said business trip. Then he was awoken to a low scream or grunts. Pretty much then it follows much the same as Joseph's story, but he would say that as they were going downstairs, they heard another scream, which Joseph didn't mention, and then more grunts. They went down there, found Robert.
That woke me was like a breathy kind of, but it was loud. And so I jumped up. Joe jumped up beside me. We're both sort of, what is that? What is that? We run to the door of our bedroom and opened the door, and we heard another kind of grunt. And flipped the switch on in the hallway, and we both start running down the stairs. And Joe was just in front of me. And then we got to the doorway of the office and saw Robert laying on the bed, and I just freaked out. His eyes were rolled back. He looked very pale.
Didn't hear or see anyone running away or doors slamming. He would say he became pretty hysterical and was ordered by Joseph to go upstairs and call 911, conspicuously leaving Joseph and Dylan, who were in a sadomasochistic relationship. Not that there's really anything, right? You never know. Leaving them alone with the body. The police were fairly confident they could break Victor.
Whatever happened between the people in that house. Nobody broke into that house. That didn't happen. We know that for sure. Now, there's one person that's going to be guilty of murder for stabbing Robert. Anybody that tries to cover up for him is going to be just as guilty and charged just as if they stabbed him. You're shaking your head, but I'm telling you that's absolutely true. That's what's going to happen.
A friend of ours died tonight.
A friend of yours was murdered tonight. He didn't die. He didn't just die. He was murdered. Somebody stabbed him with a knife from that kitchen. And you know who that someone was.
I do not.
Yes, you do.
I do.
Yes, you do.
I do not.
Yes, you do. You certainly do know.
I do not.
You do know. And the further down the road you go with this, the worse it's going to be. Absolutely going to broke in that house. One of you in that house killed him. Yes. One of you killed him. Maybe you. One of you killed him.
They didn't break him. If there was anything to be broken. And then finally we get to Dylan, who seems kind of like a wild card. Definitely a different mold than the other two, who were like these big, accomplished businessmen who would all the awards and the yada. Dylan was like completely different. He was the son of Dr. the oldest of 5 kids from Tacoma, Washington. He had studied foreign policy while in college, essentially international relations. So he studied foreign policy. Then he went to the Culinary Institute of America, where, you know, you're going to become a chef, Anthony Bourdain there. Then he moved to Taiwan, and he wrote children's books, if you can believe that, with stunning titles, such as The House of the Tiger Ant, The Worst Ghost Month Ever, and The Library of Dreams. Then he moved to DC, rented a basement apartment from Joseph and Victor, entered a relationship with Joseph from then, and then the three of them moved into this house. And as I said, his relationship with Joseph was that Dylan was like the dominant one, and Joseph was like his Subway sandwich. Most recently, at this point in time, 2006, he was now working as a massage therapist.
Sergeant Wagner, supervisor here. This is Detective Norris. Good. They're all in the squad working on this matter. Trouble.
What's that?
Very troubled. I have to be honest and fair with you. I don't believe we get the truth here.
I feel like he's telling me that. I don't know nothing.
Well, being fun. One status.
I can't believe it. I really can't believe it.
one of the other guys I completely shot.
Very different life to the others, a bit of a travel bug or whatever, and certainly less stable than the other two.
This guy's perfectly straight, and he's gonna leave his wife for the night and come over with the dogs. He's not perfectly straight. That's not something straight guy would do.
He was working late. He's probably taking the metro, and he didn't want to go all the way back up.
If there's some reason that it happened or whatever like that, and you know, maybe one of the other guys did it and you're in on this.
I'm not in on anything. I was in bed. As far as I know, they were in bed too.
He would say that while he was in the room across the hall from Roberts, he heard Roberts go have a shower, then Roberts go into his room. He said he heard the latch on Robert's door, so that would lead you to believe Robert's door was locked. Then he said he fell asleep. Next thing he knew, he heard some commotion outside the hall, and he opened the door, saw the scene. He too was questioned, remained fairly silent. Didn't know what. The police were suspicious of him the most, and they actually polygraphed him, asking did he kill Roberts or did he know who did. He failed both of those questions.
What do you think should happen to him if it is what he's there? What do you think should happen?
No, there should be a trial. I mean, there has to be an investigation and a trial to figure out what happened.
Okay. I just find it wrong to believe that this guy would never done this before. All of a sudden, comes over to your house, sleeps over your house, and the night that he decides to sleep over your house, there's a burglary that comes in there and kills Rob.
The police then spoke with the next door neighbor, and funny enough, the next door neighbor was in the room that shared a wall with Robert's room, and they would say that sometime between 11 and 11:30 p.m. they heard a scream coming from Robert's room. Now, the call to 911 was made till 11:50, so the timeline here now is even starting to get somebody's telling fucking lying son of a bitch here. They did speak with the tenant who lived in the basement apartment. She said she'd been out all night, so that security doorbell chimed, it wasn't her coming in. Now, every entry point to the home was examined. I'm talking the whole kit and caboodle. There was the front entrance, the rear entrance, the rooftop, the one that led to the basement apartment. None had any signs of forced entry whatsoever. Nothing was disturbed, and nothing was missing. Did I say nothing was missing? I'm the one telling lies, because shit was missing. The police were searching the house, and in Dylan's room, the little hoarder, little squirrel away that he was, they found a clothes with big-ass knives. Boop, boop, boop. One of the knives was missing. The knife that was missing would more matched the wounds that were made to Robert's body from the length of the blade. As I said, the one that was found in the room seemed too long to have been done to Robert. You know, so the missing knife would seem more likely to be the murder weapon than not found in the house. In fact, that knife was never. They did sweep the house for drugs. The only thing they found, again, is Dirty Dylan over here. They found ecstasy in his bedroom, and Dirty Dylan times 2 in Dylan's bedroom. They found a shitload of sex toys. And I'm talking like hardcore. I couldn't believe this shit. My innocence is ruined really bad. They found shock devices, stun guns, gas masks, all types of things to hold you down, hold you open, gas masks that you can pee into. I'll end it there. People who invented this shit could probably build a rocket ship that goes to the moon. It's crazy. I don't know how they come up with this shit. They also brought a cadaver dog into the house because, again, the police still had no idea where Robert had been killed. There would have been so much blood from the wounds that were made to him. It didn't seem like it could have happened in the room he was staying in. But there was nowhere else in the house it also could have happened. The cadaver dog led to 2 spots, though. It smelled to train dead bodies and for blood. It led to the lint trap in the washer-dryer unit they had. It also then led to a drain in their backyard. But they dug up the drain. Nothing. A hose was nearby, though, that looked like it had been used recently, but that must have been a hell of a hose because they could not find anything. Now, get this. They did use luminol searching the house to try and find any blood spots. Now, it wasn't exactly luminol. It was a substance very similar. But, you spray it, you use UV light, and you should be able to detect DNA and blood and that sort of thing. But the police really effed this up the A let me tell you. The police were using the luminol substance wrong. They used it incorrectly. You were supposed to use this type of one down, like on horizontal surfaces, on flat surfaces, because if you use this spray thing on vertical surfaces, it would drip down and essentially destroy any DNA it would drip down over. They were using it on vertical surfaces, so basically anything that would have lit up was completely destroyed by the use of this blood detection device. So, way to go. Look at you. So all three men were saying the other, couldn't have done it. No, none of us could have done this. I didn't do it. None of the others could have either. But at the same time, there was no evidence of an intruder. The police examined the home for 3 weeks. Basically everything I just had laid out for you. They were full sure as shit, no shit, that this had been heavily tampered with. They removed all of the drains. They demolished walls. Looked behind them. Found nothing. Weirdly, 3 months later, Michael Price, the brother of Joseph Price, was arrested for breaking into the house to steal shit that night, steal electronics, like stole a TV and like $7 grand worth of electronics. He was arrested for the burglary charges, but those charges were later dropped. Now, Michael Price is a character who only briefly comes up in this story, but he's a pretty interesting guy in his own right. Basically because he would have had a key, he would have had an entry point to the house. This was something Joseph Price never mentioned, that his brother also had a key to that home, so he would have been able to get in without forcing an entry. Also, he was studying to be a phlebologist, that word, at the time, and he had classes in the evenings. He just somehow missed the class the very evening of the murder when he attended every other class, but they would say, oh, you know, he was visiting family. He actually had an alibi. That kind of stood up pretty good. In the months that followed, the three men moved to Florida, Miami-Dade County area, and they seemed to be trying to put all of this behind them. That was until autumn 2008, when Dylan Ward was charged. The following month, Joseph and Victor were also charged. All three were charged with obstruction of justice and later charged with conspiracy. So not murder. Basically, if you look through the affidavit, it doesn't say who murdered Robert One, or even that they did, but that they had certainly manipulated the scene, delayed calling the cops, and that they were lying like a rug. The knife they said did it probably didn't do it. It had just been smeared with Robert's blood, while the knife that more than likely did it was from Dylan's room and now it was missing. Though they didn't find any drugs in Robert's system doesn't mean there wasn't any. And as there was no defensive marks on Robert One's body, it was like he had been incapacitated. Somehow, it didn't seem like he'd been restrained, like physically restrained, as there would have been like bruising and stuff like that. So either he'd been incapacitated more than likely with drugs or perhaps maybe with a stun gun or something like that. And even though they were still saying, Joe, Victor, Dylan, always saying there was an intruder, there must have been. Never any evidence that there was an intruder.
Trial begins tomorrow in a high-profile murder case that turned a DuPont Circle townhouse into the center of a mystery. Joseph Price, Victor Zaborski, and Dylan Ward are charged with obstruction of justice, not murder. Investigators believe the three men who lived in the house on Swan Street know who killed their housemate Robert One, but they have not told investigators. One was stabbed 3 times. The housemates say an intruder killed them.
The trial for the three men began in June 2010, and it lasted a little over a week. It was not a jury trial, it was the judge's decision, and at the end, each man was found not guilty. The judge would say that although she believed they knew who murdered Robert One, she could not say that it had been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that they had tampered with the scene and led to, the obstruction of justice charge. So basically she's saying, you guys know who did it, more than likely one of you did do it, but the charges that you've been charged with, they haven't been proven. I can still find gaps in the prosecution's case. Basically, it's like, come on now. One of the major things that actually convinced the judge that they hadn't tampered with the scene was the knife that was found at the scene. The defense's blood pattern expert was able to say that, oh no, that knife had been used. That it wasn't the secret knife that Dylan had gone missing. That knife they found had more than likely been the one that had been used to kill, so therefore they didn't have one seen, they didn't hide any other knife or switch another knife out. Basically, the whole depth and length of the knife and depth of the wounds. The defense's blood expert said, oh yeah, that could have been done. The only thing that's missing though is the t-shirt fibers from Robert's t-shirt were still never found on that knife, so it still doesn't conclusively prove that that knife was used. It seems to be like kind of the flimsiest of all the arguments, to be honest with you. It also doesn't explain why one of Dylan's knives was missing. After the men were each found not guilty, they returned to Florida. Joseph Price changed his name to Joseph Anderson. Dylan Ward changed his name to Dylan Thomas. Joseph left his law firm and got a job with an immigrant advocacy group in Miami. Dylan became a Pilates instructor. Victor didn't change his name and continued working for the same marketing company he had before. Dylan would later marry someone else. Joseph and Victor, they would later split up, recently enough that is, and go their separate ways. Shortly after the three men's acquittal, Robert's wife, Catherine, she would file a wrongful death lawsuit against Joseph Price, Victor Zaborski, and Dylan Ward. The civil suit would last a couple of years, and Catherine would say it wasn't about the money. She was hoping that the civil suit for wrongful death would reveal more information about what actually happened and ideally lead to a criminal case against the men. However, the suit was settled in August 2011 out of court for an undisclosed sum and agreement. So that means that now all three of the former defendants are all living their own separate lives. Now, of course, let's get into what possibly could have happened with the asterisks in Minecraft, of course, and everything I'm about to say now is a complete joke, and I'm not serious about this at all. This is pure speculation, just joking jokes. Come on. There's really only two theories you can talk about, because it's pretty obvious he didn't do it himself. He was always described as a very happy guy, and it's not like he would, S.A. himself. So that leaves the intruder theory, or more likely the one we're all thinking of, which is that one or more of the men inside the home tortured and then brutally murdered Robert Warren. The intruder theory is sort of interesting. It's sort of interesting in the fact that there's really nothing there. No evidence someone broke in, nothing was stolen. Though the defendants say it was an intruder, they also said they never heard anybody. They never saw anybody. They didn't hear doors slam. They just arrived moments later and you think you'd hear something. Plus, Robert was surely incapacitated in some manner, so if an intruder broke in, Robert probably would have been, oh hey, what are you doing here? Probably likely defended himself in some way. He would have had bruises or marks on him somewhere. Plus, an intruder wouldn't have had the time to do what was done. Plus, an intruder would have had to have walked past Dylan's room to get to Robert's room. No sign of forced entry. The front door was locked, the back door was unlocked, but there was a gate which remained locked that showed no signs of disturbance. It's been theorized that perhaps one of the men unlocked the back door to give the intruder, quote unquote, an entry point, but they forgot to unlock the gate outside. They had, a fence out back. There was no sign that somebody had, no disturbance out there as in somebody had jumped over the fence. The only thing of note with that is that the next door neighbor who shared a back fence with these lads would say that in their backyard, they had a little sand pit. So it was basically, one of those those soft plastic turtles, and it's in sand, and then you can put a turtle shell, soft plastic turtle shell on top of it to cover it up, and it's for toddlers and infants and that sort of thing. They would say that the next day after the murder, the turtle shell that had been on it was dented in, as in somebody had stood on it to get over the fence into the guy's house. But that never really went anywhere, and the police kind of shrugged that off pretty quickly. Maybe tunnel vision, maybe it could have gone somewhere. We don't know. Regardless, nothing ever came of it, and that could happen 6 ways from Sunday. And the stab wounds that were done to Robert Warren's body, they seem to have been done with such, I guess the word is care and precision. They were done almost like gently. There was no tearing. They weren't like vicious stabs. They weren't done in anger. It was almost like, okay, if we have to kill somebody as quickly as possible, here is where we will stab them because we want to put them out of their misery. Surgically done, not like an intruder. If one of, or more than one of the men, possibly did it, and I'm not saying they did do it, but what if one of them did it, I guess it would probably more than likely have been Dylan. Not that I'm saying he did it. He was right across the hall from Robert, and he was also proven into sadism and all that stuff, judging by the shit they found in his bedroom. And also the possible murder weapon more than likely also came from his room. So perhaps he snuck in and tortured Robert using the various implements that he had. Though then how he would even get in there without Robert fighting back remains a mystery. However, would he perhaps, with the needle marks in Robert's body, drug him with a needle? Perhaps he put something in the glass of water that Robert had when he arrived. Maybe for some reason Robert let him in. Now I've seen some speculation online that Robert was secretly gay or bi, at least, and that maybe, this whole thing had been planned with him staying over. I mean, the police in interviews were like, No way a straight guy would crash in the house with two gay guys. What are you talking about? Doesn't seem to be a case at all. Robert's very happily married. Nobody ever said he had any inclination towards being gay or anything like that at all. So I don't think Robert would have, I don't know, either done something willingly or let somebody inject him willingly. So whatever happened to him must have been done in such a way where he was out of it, paralyzed in some way before he even knew it. Dylan makes the most sense out of the tree. He does something to Robert. He runs back into his room. Joe and Victor come down. Joe sees what's going on, tells Victor to go back upstairs to call the police, because Joe told Victor to go and call the police from the upstairs phone when there was a phone in Robert Wan's room that I also could have just called the police from. Or maybe Joe wanted to get Victor out of the area so he could talk to Dylan because he knew maybe that Dylan had done something. But let's suggest for a second that maybe Robert was secretly gay or bi or something like that. Maybe this was all planned but went awry somehow. Victor wasn't supposed to be there that night. He just came home early from a business trip. Maybe Joe and Dylan had planned something, either planned to do something to Robert, or Robert knew that this was going to happen. No, way, not this was going to happen, but something was going to happen. Maybe it was some kind of bondage play gone wrong and Robert was either a willing or unwilling participant. Perhaps the injection marks that were all over Robert's body, they weren't from something being put into Robert. They were from blood being taken out of Robert for some kind of kink or something. The burst blood vessels in his eyes would also suggest something kind of BDSM choking thing. Again, there was no ligature marks, but maybe it was done in such a way where it wouldn't leave marks. Some kind of BDSM play is really the only way that you can explain his own DNA being found inside of him. Like nothing else makes sense unless it was like his own DNA was like forced in. I don't know. This doesn't make sense at all. Perhaps it was something like that, but it all just went too far. See, when you go through all the theories in this case, none of them really make sense, and you can find flaws with every single one, because this entire case makes no sense, and you can see why it would be controversial. Because whether he was willing or unwilling, at the end of the day, he was wearing his night guard the entire time. Which, if he was into BDSM, I can't imagine night guards are the sexiest thing in the world. So, I don't know. So I don't think it's that. But I can't find any other explanation for this. And then right to a close, Robert was always described as a great guy, great husband, an advocate for his community, for civil liberties, for all that sort of stuff. Really tragically taken in one of the most traumatic and horrific ways, and in a way that still has no answers. You know, almost 20 years later, we still don't know what happened. It's a tragic story. Nobody wins here. I mean, except the person who should be in prison and is not. Let me know what your thoughts on this case are and who you think could have done it, and what your theories are on what really happened and who really murdered Robert Wan. I mean, you know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and this story, we have 3, and none are talking. Thank you so much for watching. Really means the absolute world to me. I hope you found this video as interesting and fascinating as I did researching this case, because it is bananas. But there you go. If you're looking for more That Chapter stuff, please check out the That Chapter podcast, which has a new episode out every single Monday. All podcast exclusive stories are there. Recently we were talking about the Mothman and Kieran Patrick Kelly. And
it's been a relatively well-known phobia of Donald Trump's for quite some time now, though it's still completely inexplicable, because you could never, ever imagine a scenario where Donald Trump would even be able to come face-to-face with what he fears most: sharks.
Do we know, does he even know how to swim? Is there any...
That's what I'm saying.
Is there any documented evidence of this man being in water, much less the ocean?
I would assume that he is buoyant.
Yeah.
Swimming probably wouldn't be too hard for him. But then again, if he gets lopsided, then it's curtains. You know, his feet are going to be sticking up, wagging in the air. But no, just in my mind, I cannot picture him in a body of water.
Yeah.
Even a swimming pool, although I'm sure it's happened. Anyways, could you picture Donald Trump in the ocean? And for that matter, could you imagine Trump swimming at all, even in a pool? Nope. And I don't want to.
I can't.
Yeah. Honestly, the only way that we could imagine Donald Trump being in the general vicinity of a shark would be at an aquarium. But even a trip to the aquarium seems like an activity that Trump would avoid.
Yeah, maybe like hanging out with some like Saudis or some Russians. They got like a shark.
Yeah, Shark Tank, yeah.
In a tank at their villain's lair.
I hate those things. Get him away from me.
I'm not eating in there.
Tell him not to look at me. But yeah, it's honestly one of the funnier character traits, because it's a threat that is just so easily avoidable. Just don't go in the ocean. That's it. That's all. That's the only tip I have.
Problem solved.
If you are deathly afraid of sharks, there's a very easy way to avoid death by sharks.
Yeah.
You don't go in the ocean. Nevertheless, Trump absolutely hates sharks, and every once in a while he brings them up just to let everyone know where he stands on this topic.
Didn't he have Shark Week on one of the times he was fucking Stormy Daniels?
That's the first thing we get into.
Okay.
So this past weekend was no different, despite his most recent rally taking place in the Nevada desert, which is hundreds of miles from the nearest ocean.
Ooh, I hope those boomers got the proper hydration.
It was apparently very hot, and there were reports that Trump was like, the local news is hyping up the temperatures too much.
I mean, it's less about the heat, more about just the sun.
Yeah, keeping hydrated.
That hot Nevada sun.
Yeah.
But hey, maybe he has a right to be scared. The ocean has been fighting back against humanity in recent years, and the frequency of incidents appears to be rising. Hell, just this weekend over in Florida, the state that Trump now calls home, there were two separate shark attacks, resulting in 3 injuries. Now, the victims didn't die. The injuries were pretty severe.
Yeah.
Still, the option of just not swimming in the ocean, it's there. Not that either of us would forego a nice swim in the ocean. Hell, we went swimming with sharks off the coast of San Diego a few years back.
Intentionally.
They were there, we just didn't see them.
It was very
the water
murky.
was too murky.
But we wanted to get in, even though it was very choppy and dangerous. We said we came all the way out here.
Yeah.
And they were chumming that water for an hour.
They were chumming for a while.
And we were the only 2 people that got in.
Well, everyone else is puking over the side of the boat.
True, because they did the homeopathic motion sickness drugs.
They took the wrong ground, mate.
I'll just have ginger, thanks. No, I'll take the ground.
But yeah, we are way cooler and tougher than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Shark? Who cares?
We did it on purpose.
Put me in with them. But really, shark attacks they're incredibly rare. You're much more likely to get hurt or killed in countless other activities before you'd ever experience a shark attack. But we all know how the mind works. Statistics are pointless when it comes to fears that should be mostly irrational. Plus, it was that Jaws movie.
Yeah.
I got it. So where does Trump's irrational fear of sharks come from exactly?
Now, we're not entirely sure, but as Elliot just pointed out, I would venture to guess that it might actually stem from the same place that where a lot of people got this fear from that are in his age bracket. The release of Jaws back in the mid-70s.
Which does take place on Long Island, which is like, as a New Yorker, that would be, if you're going to the beach, it would probably be up that way.
After that movie came out, there was a massive spike in shark phobia from the general public, and unfortunately, also a lot of attention from fishermen who ended up targeting sharks and, according to reports, reduced their overall numbers in North American waters by up to 50%.
Great job, Spielberg.
He's already gone on the record regretting the damage that movie had on sharks.
Great work, Peter Benchley.
So, it's possible that Trump's fears started with this movie, but we know that at the very least, he has privately and publicly shared his fear of sharks for nearly 2 decades. And the first noted story about Trump and his shark obsession came from none other than Stormy Daniels and her retelling of her and Trump's affair back in 2007. And since it's such a wild story that relates directly to his most recent comments, let's just go over it again, because it ends with him allegedly getting spanked with a copy of his own magazine. Here's a few quotes from a Washington Post article from 6 years ago regarding the affair and how his fear of sharks played into it.
I remember arriving and he was watching Shark Week, Daniels told Anderson Cooper in an interview with 60 Minutes on Sunday. He made me sit and watch an entire documentary about shark attacks. He is obsessed with sharks, terrified of sharks, Daniels told In Country Weekly, again recounting Trump watching Shark Week. He was like, I donate to all these charities, and I would never donate to any charity that helps sharks. I hope all the sharks die.
Jesus.
He was like riveted. He was like obsessed.
No, no, no. If your charity has anything to do with those beasts, I will take my money back.
No. They must all be put down. But yeah, this hatred of sharks, it's even spilled over into campaign rallies across multiple election cycles, including his most recent stop in Las Vegas. But first, let's just get through some of the previous statements on sharks, the many times sharks and Donald Trump have crossed paths.
And the first one is, I again am in my mind attaching this to Jaws, because on the 4th of July, it's just in his mind, he's like, they should have closed down that beach. That mayor, that pesky mayor, was up to no good.
Yeah.
So this tweet is from 2013 on the 4th of July. And he simply wrote this. Sorry, folks. folks. I'm just not a fan of sharks. And don't worry, they will be around long after we are gone.
Unfortunately.
I love that he does at least have, like, you can tell he hates it so much because he does have at least some knowledge of sharks. Like, he studied
them, and I think a level of respect for them.
Yeah, he's like following the study your enemy, like know your enemy type thing. He's taking it very seriously with the sharks. But yeah, he's right in saying that they definitely will be around long after we are.
Well, we'll see.
He followed up that tweet with another one a few minutes later, adding, "Sharks are last on my list, other than perhaps the losers and haters of the world."
God, he was so good at Twitter back before any of this president shit.
Yeah, he could have been a phenomenal poster.
Yeah, he was just a sassy old man.
Yeah, everyone remembers
sharing
when he
his
would,
thoughts.
Yeah, he would.
The Coca-Cola company is very upset with me. That's fine. I'll keep drinking that garbage.
And when he told what's her name to break up with Robert Pattinson,
yeah, he was obsessed.
He told Robert Pattinson to let her go.
He was obsessed with that relationship.
The whole relationship, yeah. Anyways, back in August of 2020, while speaking at a campaign rally, Trump let loose on the humble shark once again.
They were saying the other night, the shark. They were saying, oh, sharks, we have to protect them. I said, wait a minute, wait. They actually want to remove all the seals in order to save the shark. I said, wait, don't you have it the other way around? That's true. I'm not a big fan of sharks either. I don't know how many votes am I going to lose. I have people calling me up saying we want to do another fund to save the shark. Don't save the shark. I said, no, thank you. I have other things I can contribute to.
And then, in October of last year, he started up with his own version of the trolley problem. And he's been working on this like a stand-up comedian who's like practicing a bit.
Yeah.
He's been working this one in public.
He's doing a lot of dates, so he's refining his craft.
Yeah, now I think he's really perfected.
He should have a stool with a little booklet.
Yeah, well, they didn't like the shark bit today. Okay, we'll cross that off the list. Hey, they're not all winners, folks. I'm trying to do a tight 90 here. He asked the audience back in October, would they rather die by electrocution or be eaten by a shark? Here you go.
And the water starts flooding in. I'm getting concerned. But then I look 10 yards to my left and there's a shark over there. So I have a choice of electrocution or shark. You know what I'm going to take? Electrocution. I will take electrocution every single time. Do we agree?
I mean, I guess I'd probably choose electrocution.
Yeah, I think so too. I feel like you'd go quicker.
Yeah, it's from what I understand.
And you probably wouldn't realize that you were dying.
Yeah.
Whereas a shark, it's like, oh, I'm going to suffer for at least a little bit.
I feel like, yeah, it would also be, getting eaten by a shark would be much more upsetting to other people as well.
As we all know, I think I've told the story before, but when I was in shop class in high school, I forgot to put the electrical tape on one of the switches, probably because I was goofing off and being a fucking idiot. I turned it on and it felt like my hand was inside of a fucking buzzsaw. It was not. Yeah. Someone had to knock it off my hand. I could have literally died. Yeah. So
Jesus.
Not a very pleasant experience.
What superpowers did you get?
Being able to host a dumb show on the internet for years.
I have the power of news.
Yeah. Anyways.
So yeah, this and the most recent reference to his fear of sharks, it seems to stem from a talking point tangentially related to renewable and sustainable energy and the adoption of electric-powered vehicles.
They're gonna kill us all!
But in typical Trump fashion, the conversation diverts multiple times to different anecdotes about sharks and how violent and terrifying they are. Basically, he attempts to say that he wouldn't get on a boat with an electric motor because it would electrocute him if it sank.
Yeah.
But actually, that would be preferable to being eaten alive by a shark, which, yeah, okay, fine. Not sure that's how any of that would actually go down. Water is conductive, salt water less so. Also, you're in the fucking ocean. I don't think I don't think it would electrocute you.
Yeah.
But sharks being instinctively drawn to ships powered by electric motors and simply waiting nearby for one to start sinking. The jury's still out on that,
yeah,
too, I think.
Ocean's very big. This might be a problem that someone might run into, but I feel like...
The shark's down there.
That's an electric motor. I should follow this. It's going to sink sometime soon, and there's a big boy that is ready to get eaten on that thing.
But this is the real issue. This is a problem that Trump claims no one ever talks about.
Yeah.
So he's raising awareness. So yeah, what we're left with is a bunch of incoherent rambling from an elderly man who's trying to claim that the other elderly man running for president is the one who doesn't make sense, while he's just totally making sense. So just enjoy this clip.
Yeah.
So I said, let me ask you a question. And he said, nobody ever asked this question.
And it must be because of MIT, my relationship to MIT. Very smart. He goes, I say, what would happen if the boat sank from its weight and you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery and the battery's now underwater and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there. By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. Do you notice that? A lot of shark. I watched some guys justifying it today. Well, they weren't really that angry. They bit off the young lady's leg because of the fact that they were not hungry, but they misunderstood who she was. These people are crazy. He said there's no problem with sharks. They just didn't really understand a young woman swimming now really got decimated, and other people too. A lot of shark attacks. So I said, so there's a shark 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards. Or here, do I get electrocuted? If the boat is sinking, water goes over the battery, the boat is sinking. Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? Because I will tell you, he didn't know the answer. He said, you know, nobody's ever asked me that question. I said, I think it's a good question. I think there's a lot of electric current coming through that water. But you know what I'd do if there was a shark or you get electrocuted? I'll take electrocution every single time. I'm not getting near the shark.
Anyways, yeah, he ended that whole rant by indicating that the crowd has nothing to worry about. Not just because they're in the middle of the fucking desert, but also because he will make sure that they are never put into a situation like this, because he's going to put a stop to electric boats.
Yeah. Bringing diesel fuel back to the ocean.
Yes, he'll never get eaten when a gas-powered boat sinks.
Are there? I mean, I'm sure electric boats exist. I've never fucking seen one.
What position would you be in where you're out in an electric boat right now?
Yeah, I don't know.
There's also a really easy way to solve this problem. Nobody's thought of it, but a wind-powered boat might be something we should look into. Honestly, though, Trump has a lot more to worry about than sharks. Not only because they specifically exist in the ocean, or he is primarily landfills, but also because he's got a lot on his plate in the lead up to this year's presidential election. He's got more time in court coming up. He already had to meet with his probation officer in regards to his most recent trial where he was convicted of 34 felonies. He's also got the sentencing process for that conviction coming up next month, followed shortly by the Republican National Convention, and the value of DJT, the stock related to his social media company Truth Social, has been steadily dropping in value since it was first listed. And now, thanks to yet another SEC statement, the stock is worth even less. And investors are shockingly pissed. Here's CNBC.
Trump Media on Monday submitted an updated inspection of the company's finances by a newly hired public accounting firm after its last auditor was charged with fraud by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission.
Oh, it keeps happening. We keep working with these fraudulent companies. Why does this keep happening? It's just bad luck. Surely this is just bad luck.
It's bad luck. Shares of Trump Media ended the trading day down more than 5%. Trump Media hired Semple, Marshall & Cooper LLP in early May, replacing its prior auditor, B.F. Borgers CPA. Nom nom nom, Borgers. 3 days before Trump Media announced that switch, the SEC charged B.F. Borgers with massive fraud that affected more than 1,500 filings. The federal regulatory agency accused the sham audit mill of failing to comply with established auditing standards and falsely representing to clients that their work would meet those standards.
That sounds... Why would they get someone that has apparently a long track record of falsifying?
We talked about this guy. He can't even spell his own name correctly in his own filings, and he's like the public auditor for like hundreds of companies, like so many that he's just rubber stamping this shit.
Yeah, it's almost like they would want that intentionally, because then they could. And also, I think we mentioned that maybe he spelled his name wrong intentionally to be like, whoa,
wasn't
not me. Yeah,
that was B.F. Burgers.
Yeah.
Despite Monday's stock drop, Trump Media boasts a nearly $7.5 billion market capitalization, which critics say is wildly disproportionate to the small amount of revenue the company has reported earning. Data shows that the company's sole product, Truth Social, appears to be struggling to hold on to its user base, which already generates just a tiny fraction of the traffic enjoyed by established social media giants such as X and Facebook.
Now, on the investor side of things, Bloomberg recently released a report after filing a Freedom of Information Act request that indicates many investors in the DJT stock are real fucking pissed. about its drop in value, and some believe that the stock is being intentionally manipulated.
This is all on you.
Despite the fact that the company is essentially worthless anyway.
You knew what you were buying.
In their article, they go into some of the complaints that the Securities and Exchange Commission has received related to the Trump Media and Technology Group. But we want to mention this little tidbit first because even though it doesn't relate to Trump, it is kind of fun. The SEC is one of the regulatory agencies that encourages investors to file complaints via an online form about possible violations of securities laws and even issues related to individual investment accounts. It gets thousands of them every year. In 2023, the SEC received nearly 16,000 complaints, the majority of which were crypto-related.
Yeah, that definitely tracks.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, here's some of the letters that the SEC has received related to the DJT stock. And we're just going to highlight some snippets of the 70 pages worth of documents they received. But if you want to read the full emails and the messages and the article itself, that's weird. But they're all always down in the description, links down there. Here's a taste of what people are saying about the stock.
It is disconcerting to note that the significant information concerning past criminal convictions of rape and convictions related to defrauding New York State involving key figures of the company were not disclosed. This omission raises grave concerns about the adherence to the SEC's own rules and regulations.
I mean, it would be pretty wild to, in your disclosures, just be like, by the way, CEO is a rapist.
And involved in some fraud in a couple of states, but...
He was also the president, though, so...
Yeah.
You know?
This is
do your own research.
This is a hot item. You're going to want to invest in this company.
Here's another. I believe that the S4 merger document and the 8K filings failed to identify key risk factors attributable to Donald Trump and TMTG. In particular, recent court cases have resulted in significant financial penalties in excess of $464 million, which are included in the latest 8K, but failed to reveal that Trump has claimed that he lacks the resources to pay the bonds, which represents a significant risk. Most egregiously, the number of shares available in the offering has been increased dramatically since the inception of this offering.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's actually that's a pretty solid point. The man you were buying stock from really needs that money.
Yeah, he's a majority shareholder and has every reason to
every
sell
reason in the world to rip you off.
Here's another. Hi, my name is Redacted, and as an individual investor, I own redacted shares of DJT.
Oh, it's probably a lot then.
I have been witnessing an ongoing daily manipulation, price suppression, and illegal naked shorting. And these crooks never having to account and cover their short positions every single day. I am getting very tired and sick of what they get away with by manipulating the security 24 hours a day. Enough is enough. There should be a temporary ban of shorting on DJT for an investigation into criminal activity. DJT price has dropped $30 in almost 2 weeks. There should be green days in between, unless the price is constantly manipulated. If something isn't done soon, I will be filing numerous lawsuits pertaining to the illegal activity and theft of one's investment. It is my God-given right to invest and believe in a company and help support it without the interference of illegal activity for one's own benefit. Shorting needs to be banned immediately.
Holy shit. That's incredible. That's very reminiscent of Elon Musk, who also just I think believes that shorting stock should be a crime, should be banned. Yeah, they're shorting the stock because you and
they don't have faith in you or your company.
Fellow idiots started buying shares of it, and there are really no fundamentals to any of this value.
Yeah.
So they are betting that the market will correct, and they have been so far very correct. Probably making a lot of money on those shorts.
I feel like anyone looking at when this went public would say, well, there's no real company backing this. This is just...
Dear SEC, it's not fair.
I'm dumb. Why is everyone shorting this stock?
Why is the line always going down? It never goes up.
Surely there should be some green days here.
Now, the article also points out that former congressman and current Trump media CEO Devin Nunes is so upset that he's asked the GOP-led House of Representatives to investigate all this short selling and insists that the stock is actually being manipulated instead of the other possibility, which is that everyone knows this company isn't worth shit and they're happy to make money off of people who do inexplicably believe that it's a solid investment. Fish in a barrel. from CNBC a few weeks back. The company's CEO, Devin Nunes, in a letter Tuesday, asked the GOP chairs to probe anomalous trading of the stock in order to gauge the extent of the alleged manipulation and whether any laws, including RICO statutes and tax evasion laws, were violated. And they add that Trump media has been described as a meme stock and a scam by some analysts who are quick to highlight the disparity between the company's lack of revenue and its roughly $5 billion market capitalization. Yeah, it's all there. We gave you all the clues, Devin.
Yeah.
That's why this is happening.
Well, speaking of congressmen, remember how John Fetterman fucking sucks now? He's been a total
like ogre,
Zionist weirdo for the past couple of months. Well, we've theorized that maybe he had his stroke and something changed inside his brain, causing him to flip to becoming an outright conservative who doesn't resemble his previous self in any way outside of his choice of clothing.
It's the reverse regarding Henry, that movie where Harrison Ford gets shot in the head and stops being such a bastard and starts like loving his family. It's like the reverse of that.
Yeah.
Where your brain gets hurt and then you're like, wait. You know, it really puts things in perspective. I've been spending way too much time and energy having empathy for other people. Today that stops.
Well, it turns out these jokes, they weren't mean. They were correct.
Yeah.
And his outlook on everything changed after his near-death experience. And this comes from the man himself during an appearance on another dipshit show, Real Time with Bill Maher.
Who watches this?
I don't know who this is for. At this point, it's literally for conservatives who are watching it going like, yeah, see, they're finally coming around to our side.
For conservatives and people who, like, considered themselves liberals in, like, I guess the 90s, but who have very, like, measurably moved to the right, but still want to claim, like, I'm the only real liberal. The left me.
Yeah, it is for like old school liberals who got deeply caught up in all the cultural stuff and agree with all of it.
Yeah, it's just, who's watching this shit? Apparently a lot of people are. Because he's got that podcast now, too, where he's just, like, smoking weed and just being fucking embarrassing all the time. Yeah. I don't get it. Who does this appeal to?
Lots of people out there. Some of them are watching this. But, yeah, during the appearance, Fetterman first compared himself to the Joker.
Okay.
Which one?
There's a lot of Jokers.
But it's comparing yourself to the Joker, it's definitely something that people do in order to be normal and relatable. Yeah, I'm kind of like the Joker in that respect.
You know, Bill Maher, I used to think life was a tragedy. But now I think it's a comedy.
And I'm the Joker.
You want to know how I got this brain injury?
Yeah.
Which Joker, though? Like, there's so many Jokers.
Yeah, he spoke about how his stroke drove the progressivism right out of him. We can't
progressivism is leaving his body.
It came out like a rainbow, too.
Yeah.
It's like a rainbow ghost.
Yeah, his soul, like, came out of his body in the near-death experience and then, like, split in half. And the other one's like, all right, well, I'm going to heaven. The shitty part of his body's like,
nah, I think I'll stay here.
Yeah, I'll be right behind you.
Yeah, the good part sashayed away.
Yeah.
So we can't show HBO clips, but here's more on this from the New Republic.
During an appearance on Real Time with Bill Maher, Senator John Fetterman credited his near-fatal stroke with making him a conservative darling, describing it as freeing. There's a line from the first Batman Joker. He's like, I've already been dead once already. It's very liberating, Fetterman told Maher on Friday. That's not reckless, that's just freeing. It's just freeing in a way. And I just think after beating all of that, I just really want to be able to say the things that I have to really believe in and not be afraid of if there's any kind of blowback. Okay. The article talks about the path that he's gone down since the incident, which includes his unwavering, comical support for Israel. He's switched up his wardrobe quite a bit. He used to just wear hoodies and jean shirts, and now he sometimes wears a giant Israeli flag that he drapes around himself like a bathrobe. His mocking of students and veterans who have participated in those protests. His newly found love of locking down our borders despite his wife being an undocumented immigrant when she was a child. But the article ends with this banger, which brings it all into focus.
Fetterman frames his seismic shift as stances he's always had, which his brain damage simply allowed him the freedom to embrace. Despite constantly describing himself as a progressive through the years, seeking endorsement from the Democratic Socialists of America, and himself endorsing progressive candidates for office. I mean, dude admits backing conservative policies because he suffered severe brain damage. I mean, it's incredible.
Now, he's not wrong, too. Like, I read this Ryan Grimm book came out this year, mostly about like AOC. I think the title's The Squad. But yeah, they talk about Fetterman and like, yeah, he's, I mean, everything he's said so far is very consistent with his belief. What it does sort of illuminate is something that you always have to be on guard for in Democratic primaries, where people know that it's fashionable to come off as much more progressive than they actually are. Yeah. And you do have to like look for things they've said in the past and be like, oh, okay, so you're just fucking lying.
Yeah, I mean, there is hope, though, because in cartoons and movies, the people whose lives are altered by traumatic brain injuries, they can revert back to their old selves with another brain injury.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know it, John Fetterman was involved in a car accident over the weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, that sucks. It's a hell of a thing to deal with.
I've been in severe car accidents.
Yeah,
it's
not fun.
Yeah.
And while we wish him a speedy recovery, wouldn't it be fascinating if he reversed all of his recent policy positions once again, thanks to another near-death experience? Doubtful. But many have already joked that it would make for a good sitcom or movie plot.
Yeah.
Where the two political aisles are constantly finding ways to surreptitiously knock him on the head.
Yeah.
Also, just so we're not the only ones commenting on this guy's brain, conservatives were very quick to take advantage of his flip stances as proof that they just need to bash more people on the head in order to get them to support their position.
Yeah, just look at like the Fox article about this and go down to the comment section. And there's also like a bunch of tweets from verified people who were like, yeah, we should start doing more of this.
Okay. Yeah, we're sorry, but the fact that a guy had a brain injury that caused him to become more conservative is just fucking wild. And it comes really close to the other recent admission by RFK Jr., where he talked about having brain worms. Yeah. Having brain worms and brain injuries and being a conservative, they were supposed to be jokes. And here you have two guys who are self-described liberals admitting that it happened to them. So I don't know what to think anymore.
Yeah.
We live in a cartoon.
But speaking of people with noggin problems, this one had a noggin that leaked.
Leaky noggin.
Let's check in on old Rudy Giuliani, who had the distinct pleasure of getting his mugshot taken in Arizona on Monday of this week. He does not look like he's thrilled to be there. Actually, he looks like he doesn't know where the fuck he is.
Yeah.
And if you're confused as to why Rudy Giuliani is getting his mugshot taken, or for which crime it's in regards to, this is the criminal case where he's facing 9 felonies for his participation in a fake elector scheme aimed at overturning the 2020 presidential election. First of all, here's the mugshot. Please enjoy.
There it is.
And here's some more info from the Associated Press, which we will just put over the mugshot instead of our standard quote graphics. Just so he's always...
in it.
Yeah, there you go. Rudy Giuliani, a former New York City mayor and Donald Trump attorney, was processed Monday in the criminal case over the effort to overturn Trump's Arizona election loss to Joe Biden, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office said. The Sheriff's Office provided a mugshot, but no other details. Giuliani pleaded not guilty in May to 9 felony charges stemming from his alleged role in the fake electors effort. He is among 18 people indicted in the Arizona case, including Trump attorneys John Eastman, Christina Bobb, and Jenna Ellis. Former Trump presidential chief of staff Mark Meadows and Trump 2020 Election Day operations director Michael Roman pleaded not guilty Friday in Phoenix to 9 felony charges for their alleged roles in the scheme.
And this also reminded us to bring up a quote from someone we are typically ambivalent towards, but he's a guy who specializes in hot takes. And we sometimes, sometimes those takes are funny or actually effective summaries of what's going on. We're talking about Colin Cowherd. And of course, you probably remember one of our favorite takes of his over the years from the funny category, which is when he called all esports players a bunch of booger eaters and did a play-by-play of a gamer leaving an esports tournament, saying, "There goes Spencer. He's leaving the event and walking across the street to his mom's house where he still lives at 29. He goes over to the refrigerator, opens it up. He's got a Hot Pocket. Yeah, big night for Spencer. Now he's going upstairs to his room, a room where a girl has never entered. He sits down and look at that Star Wars collection. And he goes to town on the Hot Pocket. That is your esports champion."
He was like, I will fucking leave this job.
Yeah, and he did. He was at ESPN.
He's at Fox now, I believe. And he does his own podcast and stuff. But if they ever make me cover these booger eaters, that will be the last day I work here.
I appreciate that he stood by his convictions.
Yeah, he's got weird takes, but sometimes he fucking nails it. And recently he had some words for Donald Trump and his supporters after all those felony convictions. And maybe, just maybe, some of the sports fans who listen to him will actually process what he had to say about Trump and the people he surrounds himself with. Here's just a small taste of what he said. And again, this is only important because of his art. Like, people who otherwise...
He's not really like a political guy, and he very much seems to generally lean to the right. So, yeah, interesting take from him.
Here's what he said. Donald Trump is now a felon. His campaign chairman was a felon. So is his deputy campaign manager, his personal lawyer, his chief strategist, his national security advisor, his trade advisor, his foreign policy advisor, his campaign fixer, and his company CFO. They are all felons, judged by the company you keep. It's a cabal of convicts. Stop trying to sell me on everything is rigged, the country's falling into the sea, the economy's terrible. The America I live in is imperfect. But compared to the rest of the world, I think we're doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, I don't know exactly where he lives. I think he might live in LA.
Yeah, I think he does.
But he's just like, every time they say that like LA's turned into like an apocalyptic wasteland, I'm like, I go outside and I'm like, that's not the reality I see.
And he for sure has like, he's probably in an area where that doesn't exist really, but I literally got the same response from my dad the last time he was out here.
Wow, I was really expecting this to be
He thought it'd be a fucking war zone!
Yeah.
He's like, he even said, he's like, wow, they really make this place look terrible on the news.
Yeah, because they're only filming on Skid Row, Venice Beach, and like Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, we got our problems, but like, it's not a fucking war zone. It's not hell on earth.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It was just very fascinating.
It's the same way people were like, oh, like Seattle has burned to the ground. Ferguson has burned to the ground. Minneapolis, it's gone. And you like zoom out of the map, and it's like all of these protests are taking place in a 2-block radius.
There are problems, but it's not the way that conservative media is portraying.
They're manageable problems.
Yeah, and these are human beings we're talking about too. So like, have a little bit of empathy. It's like, it misrepresented on a grand scale. So again, this is the audience that he's talking to, and that's why it's important, because they're the ones who believe that LA is a fucking hellhole.
Well, if this Colin guy, if he's right about sports, what else is
Esports. He's right about esports.
He is. I agree, actually. I no disrespect to esports, but they're not fucking sports. I'm sorry, it's something else. It's
luckily for you, that entire industry has fallen off the face of the earth and only exists in Dubai and Saudi Arabia.
It's the same way, like, I wouldn't consider chess a sport.
Maybe we can get some comments on that one.
It's not.
I don't agree with Elliot. I think chess is the best sport.
These are intellectual pursuits. They're not athletic.
Sure.
Unless we're talking like Dance Dance Revolution. Put that in the Olympics.
Does a sport have to be athletic, though?
Yeah.
Well, that's a debate for a different... Why don't you tell us in the comments below.
My definition.
Okay, fine. Well, good.
Good. Okay, good.
That's why I refuse to play any competitive games anymore. It's too much stress.
Yeah.
Too much going on.
Too much on the brain.
Yeah. I don't want to get John Fetterman's disease.
Oh, you don't?
No, where I turn into a conservative asshole. Anyways, that's it for today. We do have a bunch more for you on the next episode, including probably at least a little bit of coverage of Apple's big event, because they are also forcing artificial intelligence on everyone.
Oh, good.
And the future continues to look bleak. And it is very disappointing. Very disappointing. It's going to be very annoying. Although the one good thing is they added that messaging, like the RCS messaging, where now if I send you a message, it isn't horribly compressed to where you can't see it.
Okay.
That's going to be coming in the next one. But on the other hand, you can also just type in Elliot riding a unicorn wearing a balloon hat, and it'll pop that up and send it to you, which, as people have pointed out on Twitter, and I agree with, anyone who sends me that's getting blocked.
Yeah.
If you send a fucking AI created emoji, done.
You're done. Get out.
You have been kicked out of the group chat. One more AI emoji and you are banned from the group chat. So yes, it's a little disappointing, especially from Apple, who has been consistently okay. But anyways, we have plenty more for you to watch in the downtime between these two episodes.
Yeah, we got Weekly Weird News, which
accidentally went up a little late.
I uploaded it, had everything, and just left for the day without just forgetting to press a single click to make it go live, and didn't realize for 24 hours because, baby, the weekend is for me. When the work is done.
We did have a good time at that festival. We went to No Values Festival this weekend. Met a couple of you. Thank you for coming up and saying hi. That was great. And saw a just
Too many good bands.
It was a great festival outside of it being a little hot in the middle of the day, and also parking, getting in was a nightmare. But damn, fucking, I had never seen Fiddler live before. That was
good.
awesome. Got to see Power Trip. Sublime with the singer's son singing.
Shockingly good.
That was incredible. Iggy Pop still got it.
Yeah.
Despite being 77?
He's old as shit. Yeah.
Crazy. Elliot's got the shirt. There.
Yeah.
There's Elliot.
Boom.
Anyways, in the meantime, make sure you're subscribed so we can hit those goals. But please, leave a like. Do your part. Leave a like. Hit the like button. Do it right now. If you're feeling frisky, click the join button. Click the thank button. We had a sponsor this week. We had to say no. We had to turn them down.
Yeah.
Looked into it a little bit and was like, I don't want to align myself with this.
Maybe we'll...
Piers Morgan. It's incredible how you can be like a British mother and you carry a baby for 9 months and they pop out and you're like, hello, Piers. Yeah, Piers, Docs, and Planks, all great friends.
I was about to say one of the key tenets of...
So obviously, as you all know, Donald Trump got convicted of 34 nasty felonies. Just like the rest of the conservatives out there who think that it's all Joe Biden's fault. Donald Trump has insomnia, it's Joe Biden's fault. Donald Trump slips and stubs his toe, it's Joe Biden's fault. Donald Trump cheats on his wife, again, it's Joe Biden's fault. Donald Trump may lose 2024, and that's Joe Biden's fault. That one might be true, actually. But anyways, everything bad that happens to Donald Trump is actually Joe Biden's fault. Our biggest guy, bringing only the best and smartest minds together, Piers Morgan, decided to host a little panel about what happened to Donald Trump, and he brought some very curious names on board. So I want to take a look at it. I feel like it could be pretty fun.
The former President Trump's bombshell guilty verdict has triggered a predictable outpouring of smugness and glee from some...
That's true. I can't lie. I'm pretty smug, and it was funny. It just I even titled the video that it was really funny when he got convicted. It is. It's just funny. It's just funny. Also, something I didn't talk about in that video is the fact that the idea that it was such a like mundane white collar crime is something that's not worth convicting over, especially like seriously, is honestly one of the biggest problems in this entire country. The fact we don't treat white collar crimes as seriously in this country, as any other like more violent or property crime, is a massive issue. Like the way that a lot of rich people can get away with stealing people's money and get a slap on the wrist is just something that should not be taken seriously. Even in some like defense and like even in sort of the law practicing community, white collar crimes are not seen as big of an issue as like more violent crimes that poor people commit, which is something that absolutely should not be the case. And I can understand how like more and more richer people may feel that way, but yeah, I mean, listen, you fight for your own interests, right? But I'm just gonna tell you right now, one of the biggest categories of thefts in this entire country is wage theft. But I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people care a whole lot less about wage theft and care a whole lot more about Walgreens pretending like they have a theft problem, and that's why they're closing down some stores or raising a bunch of prices when it's actually just price gouging because they know they can get away with it, and people will blame somebody besides them.
Celebrities and liberals are this license. So
people literally fired up fireworks. I'm not gonna lie, I saw this comment on Twitter the other day, and I thought it was a perfect encapsulation of how a lot of like sort of middle-aged liberals feel right now. They said, imagine the exact opposite of 9/11, and that's how they feel. And yeah, it's like if two planes settled their differences and got together to build two new towers.
Americans does not allow the felon anywhere near the White House again. Star Trek's George Takei quickly should now be called 34 instead of 45. And Joy Behar from Senator Mitt Romney, very much a moderate of Republicans, said that Alvin Bragg...
I don't know. We still say moderate of the Republicans when it comes to Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney like pushes for almost every single Trump policy. I'm going to be on almost every single one, like 99%. Sweet Blasphemy, thank you so much for the tier 1 on the website. Thank you so much for the support on the site. I really appreciate you. And if you want to be part of the site too, sharky.cc, sharky.cc.
He may have won the battle for now, but he may have lost the political war. Democrats think they could put out the Trump fire with oxygen. It's political malpractice. So with Trump the felon now even more likely to return to the White House. And here to debate this is the Shark Tank investor, Kevin O'Leary, criminal defense attorney, Mark.
Oh, dude, this dumbass? That guy's like a super conservative, right? He's just a weirdo. No, here, listen, I'll just answer this early. No, actually, Trump being a felon is not going to make him more likely to go to the White House. Something that's actually been really funny. You know what? I'll save that for a little later. No, it's not going to make him more likely to go to the White House. It will literally only hurt him. A lot of conservatives out there who are pretending to be like moderates or liberals. There are a lot of them out there who like pretend to be moderates or liberals. They're like, I totally wasn't going to vote for Donald J. Trump Jr. I was totally thinking about not voting for him. I was definitely not going to vote for him. But now that I know that he's been convicted of 34 felonies, I'm totally going to vote for him. And just like me and all of my friends and their friends and their friends and my great aunt, she and everyone else are going to be totally huge Donald Trump fans now because what the Democrats are doing against him. Like, okay. Like, all right, I bet. I totally bet. And you can go through the history of almost all of these people and they're like praising Trump 24/7 and they're like, I love Trump. I can't wait for Trump to win. Like, and then they have the audacity to hop in on the same exact account and go like, oh yes, you see, I was totally, I am the fabled, I was definitely not gonna vote for Trump, but now he's a convicted felon. I totally am a voter. Like, okay, buddy, sure, I bet. And we have some post conviction polls that came out recently. I'm not gonna lie, and all of them have no real movement for Donald Trump whatsoever. Some of them have him losing ground as well. So yeah, there's probably going to be almost nothing. The reason why, let me tell you, the reason why is because Donald Trump's been on the campaign trail for basically 8 years at this point. Actually 6 years at this point because he was campaigning for like 2 years before the 2016 election. Basically, so yeah, Donald Trump, and when he was president, he was still doing rallies. So yeah, Donald Trump's been on the campaign trail for about 8 years now. People have their mind made up about Donald Trump. They're not going to be changing their minds on Donald Trump like that. When it comes to this race, Biden, I'm going to be honest with you, Biden isn't actually running against Trump. Biden is actually running against himself. And what I mean by that is that Biden doesn't have to tell people how bad Trump is, really. I think that's going to come out, especially during the debates. What he has to do is stop his base from leaving him, from slobbering on Netanyahu and pushing for more right-wing policies. Like, I think that's what his big deal is. It's a fight literally against himself. I think it was honestly like Hillary Clinton as well. Like, it's a fight against herself, and Donald Trump is just kind of there, kind of like tweaking in the corner. And if they don't win the fight against themselves, then Donald Trump will just win by default. I think that's what this election actually comes down to. Can Joe Biden beat himself more than can Joe Biden beat Trump? Everybody has their mind made up on Trump right now. Literally, everybody has their mind made up on Donald Trump. That's not going to be changing. There aren't people who don't know who Donald Trump is, so his name recognition is too high. And also, there aren't people who are going to change their minds this deep into this election cycle, honestly, since 2020, who we could possibly win over. It's just Biden racing against himself to see if he can make himself seem less like a loser and get his base to actually choose to come out and not stay on the couch. Can Link defeat Dark Link? Yeah, that's actually what's going on right now.
Garagos, host of the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles Show, conservative commentator Michael Knowles, and the very unconservative commentator Francesca Fiorentino. Welcome to all of you. Mark Garagos, let me start with you just from a legal perspective here. I think two things can be true at the same time. One is that the jury did their job with the evidence placed in front of them, and that the verdict was the correct one from a legal perspective. And the second view, which can run concurrently with this should never have got to court in the first place, and dragging an American president through a criminal court process over something so relatively trivial, driven by apparent political partisanship on the part of the people driving it, was a catastrophic error of judgment and a disaster for the country. Discuss.
No, I mean, I think just a little stupid. The idea that white collar crimes are just something that you shouldn't bring in front of court, just, I don't know. I just think it's one of the massive problems with this country. I explained it already. That's why I think this is dumb. Yeah, I don't care if he was falsifying business records or doing whatever other white collar crime. Just because he's rich enough to get away with little crimes that we would call like petty doesn't mean that he should be allowed to. And the fact that that would actually be proof that the richer you are, the more above the law you become. Because who cares about the little crime that rich people, the little bunch of crimes that rich people commit that keeps them a head and shoulders above poor people? Because if you try and skip out on your taxes as a poor person, they're going to come get you and destroy you. If you skip out on your taxes as a rich person, that's par for the course, man.
Well, look, I don't disagree with you. You can have these two thoughts in your head. If you're going to bring a criminal case against one of the most reviled people in Manhattan and pick a jury in Manhattan and expect them to do anything but convict him, then I know nothing about the criminal law that I've been trying cases about. That was a slam dunk for the prosecution from the get-go. At the same time, I can tell you that it was, to my mind, it was reprehensible that you take a case that is basically misdemeanors and with an expired statute of limitations, and you do the mental gymnastics to contort this into a target crime that's not defined until closing argument and make those into felonies, basically reviving an expired statute of limitations. I could go on and on about the legal nonsense that this is, but I'm not criticizing the jury. I criticize, number one, the prosecutor for bringing this case. Part of what makes the system work is prosecutors have to make hard decisions when to bring a case. Now, the jury did what they were given. That's on the judge. The judge, there's no such thing as directed verdicts in criminal cases. This was basically a directed verdict based on the jury instructions.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is just complete cope. This is a cope from somebody who's mad because he doesn't want to be held responsible for the same crimes that he will happily commit as a rich person. Let's just be completely honest with you, okay? He wants to be able to get away with these crimes, and he doesn't want the prosecutor to be able to do anything about it because he wants to be able to falsify as many business records as he wants without having to worry and skip out on taxes because he doesn't want to have to worry about it, obviously. Right? And I mean, like, you can blame the prosecutors all you want, but what I'm not hearing is that he didn't commit these crimes. Well, all I'm hearing is that Donald Trump should be able to get, what I'm hearing from these people is Donald Trump should be able to get away with as many crimes as he wants, as long as they're not too big of a problem, because he's a rich and cool and famous person, and rich, cool and famous people should be able to commit as many crimes as they want that aren't as bad as we, okay. To wrap up, massive cope. They want to be able to commit these crimes as well. Donald Trump should not be able to get away with crimes because he's rich, cool, and famous. This is 100% cringe. And you'll hear people complaining about the fact that he did these crimes, but you'll hear people complaining about the fact that he's being held responsible for these crimes, but you'll hear none of them say that he actually didn't commit these crimes.
As to the political, I'll just end it with this. I said 30 years ago when I was defending Susan McDougal, who was Bill Clinton's business partner in the Whitewater case, and when she was being prosecuted by then independent counsel Ken Starr, be careful what you wish for, Republicans, because the chickens are going to come home to roost. And sure enough, that's where we are right now.
And those chickens are going to keep coming home to roost. So, Francesco, my question for you is, I understand how joyous you must be feeling that Donald Trump has been convicted because he slept with a porn star 20 years ago and may have shuffled some business papers about it.
Oh, yeah. Listen, he just, like, I saw this meme before and I thought I think it's so poignant and so funny. Conservatives now like to describe crimes as the most mundane things possible to be able to get away with doing them and make themselves think that they're not being held responsible for things that don't really mean anything. So now falsifying business records in the effort to commit another crime is now shuffling papers on your desk. Okay? Conspiracy is just making plans with friends. Tax fraud is just, really liking your properties more than the IRS does. Like, okay, okay, dumbass. Like, no, oh, he just slid some papers around on his desk all funny style, and now everybody's mad at him. Yeah, okay, yeah, I bet that's what's going on. Yeah, falsified. Yeah, once again, rich people crimes don't matter. Poor people crimes are the only things that matter. You need to keep the dirty poors in line. The rich people can do as they please. Why are you salty for no reason?
Why is it good for America that one of your 46 presidents have been treated in such a humiliating manner over something so trivial? And why do you guys not see that this might help him rather than hinder him in the election?
This is actually the most loaded question I've ever heard in my entire life. This is actually one step below when did you stop beating your wife? I'm not even lying. It's kind of hilarious. Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah, this question is one step below when did you stop beating your wife?
I happen to believe, Piers, that it's good for America when you hold the person who has the highest office in the land to the standards of the American law. And in this case, New York State law, where he committed these crimes. I happen to believe that it is a telltale sign of coming totalitarianism, fascism, skirting of the law when you allow a president to simply do whatever he wants and actually never hold him accountable. But look, the reality is this, is that these aren't crimes that were on the books in every single state. These are crimes that are on the books in New York State, as we talked about, all right? And so he knew exactly what he was doing. In fact, this is the most important part, is that David Pecker of the National Enquirer refused to keep on paying his hush money payments because the dude was tired of getting paid back in expired Trump stakes, and he was like, no, I'm not going to do it this time, especially not with a porn star. And so Michael Cohen had to do the payments on behalf of Donald Trump. Michael Cohen already spent 3 years mostly on house arrest, but he was already sentenced to 3 years over this. This is squarely Trump's making. This has nothing to do with his base. It has nothing to do with protecting American democracy, like happened on January 6th, according to them. This has to do with Trump making his bronzer-stained bed with a porn star, trying to cover it up, and then getting caught doing it.
Another interest. You know what's also incredibly wild is that she's literally the only person. She has to fight tooth and nail in this panel because Piers Morgan put together a group of people who all want to suck Trump's dick, including himself. But only one person who has any stance whatsoever contrary to that belief. It's Gagger, Slopper, Choker, and Slinger. But nobody here. But only one person here who has like a semblance of it. It's actually just a full. This is actually what it's like when you walk into a room in Skyrim. You know what I mean? Like it's full of NPCs. There's only one person at the keyboard. It's a circus. Yeah, it's actually a circus. We got Swallower, Slobber, Gagger, Choker, and one person who's not an NPC. Wild how that works out.
Before I go to Michael, out of interest, why is Bill Clinton able to have sex with an intern in the Oval Office when he's president and lie to the American people about it on national television? And why is he able to pay off Paula Jones $850,000, 4 times as much, 5 times as much as the Trump payment to Stormy Daniels, to get rid of a sexual harassment claim, again, while he's president? And he has no criminal recourse for that. Why
are those crimes? For one, he got impeached. And 2, are those crimes? Is having sex with a porn star is having sex with a woman and lying in the Oval Office a crime? Dude, every single president would be in jail if lying was a. Every single president would be in jail if lying was a crime. Now I don't know, maybe it should be, but I'm just like, he didn't. I'm sorry, Chet. Did I miss something? I didn't know that Donald Trump got convicted of 34 counts of getting head. That's crazy. Did you know that that's illegal in New York? That's what? That 34 felony counts of getting head. Who knew that this was a crime in liberal New York City? Like I saw that this opinion on Twitter, but I didn't think New York, the liberal shithole of New York City, actually made it a crime free to fuck conservatives. That's so crazy. Felon for fellatio, 34 sloppies, and now then that's a federal crime. That's so crazy. That's wild to me. Oh wait, I just read the court briefing again, the sentencing. My bad. Sorry, I just read the conviction. Nothing on here says anything about having sex. Wow, it actually says falsifying business records. Maybe that's what the kids call head these days. I may be out of the loop.
Is that deemed to be better than what happened with Trump and Stormy?
I don't think anyone is making that case, Piers. I'm
asking you, what's the difference? What's the difference?
Or any predator. The difference is that he didn't cook the books financially using his own, using back channels in order to pay.
So paying somebody off who says you sexually harassed her, paying $1 million while you're the president of the United States, and then having sex with an intern in the Oval Office and lying about it, that's fine because he's a Democrat.
Well, are you stupid? Hey, I'm gonna be so honest with you. I try and be as balanced with Piers as possible. But this question, you have to be like a stupid person to ask this question. You know what I mean? You actually have to be dumb. That you have to, I don't know, you have to not be working on all of your trillions of synapses and connections and neurons in your brain just simply cannot be firing if this is a question that you ask. You know what I mean? Something has to be happening in there for you to ask this type of question. So, Donald Trump got convicted for falsifying business records, but this other guy had sex. So, why is that different? Okay, buddy.
Piers, only the leftists in your mind are making that argument.
Sorry?
I said only the Democrats and the leftist mob in your mind are making that argument that you're opposing to it. I will say this about Stormy Daniels. I think it's incredible that she accepted $130,000 from Michael Cohen because